Hello and welcome to this special edition of DaoWatch. This is going to be a shorter single topic video that I'm making because something absolutely huge in the crypto world is happening, and it's happening over at a project that we have looked up to for years called Monero. Now, I'm Cryptosi. I've been hosting DaoWatch for over a year now, and I've been working for DAOs since 2016 maybe, so we're looking at 7 years of DAO experience. And some of you may only be seeing me for the first time if you are Monero people or just general privacy people. I used to work for a project called PivX, which is a blend of privacy and DAOs. To be honest, it didn't do perfectly in either aspect. It wasn't the perfect DAO, still isn't. It was not the perfect privacy project. It's better now, privacy-wise. DAO-wise, still a lot of work to go, but DAOs are young. So what is a DAO? First of all, a DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization. To a lot of the people, especially Monero people, DAO may seem like a buzzword, like DeFi or like NFTs or something that doesn't really have a lot of deep technical cypherpunk meaning. But it's a bit more than that. A DAO is just a way to describe how we organize ourselves on a social level, let's say, okay? So what we really want from DAOs is a way to find consensus, a way to allow people to enter and exit the organization freely, and a way for people to allocate value, whatever that may mean. Monero is a privacy project for this. Now, this is for the people who don't know about Monero. Monero is a privacy project. It is, by market cap, the largest privacy project. Overall, in the history of crypto, we have to say it's the best privacy project, all in all, in terms of market cap, in terms of actual privacy and the strength of their privacy, and in terms of the size of their community. Let's say dedication to the mission, all those factors. If you overall them, you put them in one thing, Monero is the top privacy coin. Now, I've been familiar with Monero since they didn't have a GUI. So I liked the idea. They didn't have a GUI, so therefore I didn't bother buying it. A GUI is like a graphical user interface, like Windows. So in the early days of Monero, you had to do everything in command line. Monero does not use zero knowledge, or maybe it does. No, let me take that out. Let me edit that out. It doesn't use ZK snarks, which a lot of the other privacy coins do. Monero uses ring CT. On a technical level, I'm not qualified to explain the differences, but on a broad level, people will argue about which one's which, and the really, really smart people will just argue back and forth, right? So as far as I'm concerned, or the regular human being is concerned, we can put Monero's level of privacy up there with all of the other ones. Like, I might put it slightly tiny bit down, but whatever. So let's get to the crux of the reason for me creating this video, because that's all of the introductions out of the way and explaining the two things. The reason why I've decided to discuss this is because I came across this text a few days ago from Ruben Yap. Ruben Yap is like the head honcho of Favour. It used to be called Zcoin. Favour is another privacy coin. It's another small one like PivX, but it's one that has been very, very dedicated to its own cause. So I follow Ruben. I've had him on my podcast before. He's generally a guy who has a lot of interesting takes on crypto, very experienced, obviously smart, but quite open in his analysis of things. So he's put a post and he said, there's a proposal made to disband Monero Core. Brave move, and interested to see how it develops. Interested to know why he's interested to see how it develops, but we'll talk about that in a little while. One overall thing I will say before we really get into it is there's two kind of ways to look at decentralization. With Monero, the actual coin itself is decentralized. There's no arguing about that. But decentralization is a scale. Okay, so you have centralizing factors and then you have decentralizing factors. So if you have too many centralizing factors, then some people might call it centralized, some people might still not. If you have a lot of decentralizing factors, then some people might call it decentralized and less people will call it centralized. I'd put Monero over here, right? There are still some centralizing factors, which Fluffy Pony goes into, but most of the decentralizing factors are there. It's proof of work. They have a really good coin distribution. Their mining distribution is also really good. I believe they're still using an algorithm called RandomX, which is really good, but that's too technical. Anyway, on this side, like Monero over there, one massively centralizing factor is Fluffy Pony. Now, Fluffy Pony himself, I was familiar with him from back when Monero were first coming out, and there is this cult of personality around Fluffy Pony. Now, we've seen the cult of personality around people many a time. In the early days, there was Roger Ver. There was Roger Ver since being the cult of personality, since being like a hero to a lot of people, then became a villain to a lot of people. There was John McAfee, who he was a hero to a lot of people, then he then became a villain to a lot of people. More recently, we've had Dol Quan, who was a hero to a lot of people, then became a villain to a lot of people. Sam Bankman-Fried or BitBoy. In the early days, we had Charlie Lee. Charlie Lee was one of the few people, he was the creator of Litecoin, he was one of the few people who escaped the cult of personality and he stepped back. Vitalik, he's one of the people who does his best to escape this cult of personality and not be somebody who everybody's looking towards for answers. Now, Fluffy Pony is one of these types of people, but he is the top guy visually from Monero. And what he's attempting to do is to step back. Now, I don't know him personally, but judging by the things he said over the years, I don't think he's stepping back because of a fear of persecution from the Americans. He seems like one of these, yeehaw, I'm not afraid of anybody type of guys. I think why he's stepping back is because he wants there to be more inclusivity and less of the centralizing factors that currently exist. And he has identified that he is one of those centralizing factors. There's an old saying which says, if you want to go fast, you go alone. And if you want to go far, you go together. Previously, and as a young project, Monero, it has been in their interest to go fast. Now they're bigger, they're bulkier. It's in their interest now to go far. And perhaps that's what this restructuring is about. So I've left this up there if you want to read it, but I will summarize it. What he's saying is we could look at it two ways. He wants to break up the core team and replace it with 6 smaller teams, with 6, but for this, we'll call them sub-DAOs. He wants to have 6 sub-DAOs, which are smaller teams, right? He wants to have brackets for 6 different groups, and he wants the 6 different groups to collaborate to control Monero on the whole. Now, the 6 groups he's identified are as follows. A general donation fund work group. So it's quite obvious what they're going to control. A CCS work group. Now, as far as I'm aware, CCS is their own way of funding things, where people put money into this special multi-sig and then a small group of people decide what happens with it. Seems like it's very, very similar to the general donation funds. But the two of them seem quite to me anyway. IP and DNS work group. What these guys will do is they will control the I guess the brand and the web domain names, things like that. He's identified there'll need to be a super administrator for both domains, because these things where crypto touches the real world, you can't do things in a crypto way. You kind of have to decide, right, who is the person that's going to be responsible, person or company? Where will they be located? Maybe I've skipped a part. Monero's got a website, monero.org, I guess. And let's see. I don't know what their website is. I don't think I've been to it in an age. So let's see. Get Monero. Here we go. Getmonero.org. So Monero's got a website. Now, essentially, this website represents Monero. So if we are a decentralized currency, who owns this website? It's going to be a centralized person. There's two ways to get around it. Either you have multiple websites and you tell people, look, do it at your own risk. We're a decentralized cryptocurrency. Or you have this website owned by somebody who is accountable, first and foremost, and preferably public, even if anonymous or pseudo-anonymous, let's say. Which means they have like a name like Cryptocracy. Like they have a name that everybody knows them by, but they don't publicize their legal name. Someone has to control this. Now, the discussion is who should control this, and, you know, like that shouldn't be the core team as well, because currently the core team does all of these things. So he wants to split this up. Servers and CDN group. Single beefy server for CDN. That was blah, blah, blah. Right, we're getting to the crux of the argument. Right, so he wants to split this down into smaller groups. A Git work group, which is going to be who controls the flow of the new code. So the developers make code and anybody can contribute. So I could contribute if I had any skills to the code. Who is the person that approves the new code? Who's the person that allows people to write new code or allows people to add to the code base? Who decides where the code base gets put up and who can comment on certain things? And that needs to be organized by somebody, because there's going to be a version of the code base that people see as official, or there may be two versions of the code base that people see as official. Some people will argue, should it be put up on GitHub? What if GitHub turn around under the behest of the American government and say, well, all privacy coins are now illegal, and vanish the Monero GitHub? That was a real worry in 2017. Do you post it on GitLab? But the overall thing is, who's going to be in charge of that? What small group is going to be in charge of that? And then a community channels work group. This I think is, I think this one's poorly laid out by him, as it doesn't address a lot of the problems that already are, I don't know, problems, shortcomings, let's say, that are already within Monero. They are managing various community channels like Telegram groups, the subreddit, the IRC channels, etc. Obviously, these channels already exist, and this workgroup might choose to fold the existing moderators of the subreddit, for instance, into the workgroup. When he says fold, he doesn't mean like get rid of. Like in England, we'd say, oh, we'll fold that. That means get rid of them. What he means is like conflate. So bring them all in together, and they all work together in this workgroup. Fine. Right, fine. So I would look at this and I would say this is Fluffy Pony trying to move from a, let's say we've got a scale, a dictatorship is on one side and DAO's on the other. He's trying to move the needle this way. Now, to become a successful DAO, there are some things that we obviously need to assess. Now, the first issue I've got with what Fluffy Pony has done here, it's not an issue. It's not to say he's done anything wrong, right? But the first problem is that he's done this without really consulting anybody. And he's put some things in here a little bit further on where he says that the people that are involved in any of this should have a multi-year history within Monero. Monero is quite a closed group. For me, I feel like it's quite a closed group of Monero people right now are like, hey, how dare you say that? But to me, it feels like a closed group. It seems like they all come from a very similar demographic mindset, and they are all like, Monero would be the type of people who would support the Canadian truckers when they had that Canadian trucker. They're it's not a bad thing, but it's just they're from a certain group, right? These Monero people. There are obviously one or two people that are not from that group that you could point to, but they are socially quite similar. I feel like I'm gonna edit that part. No, let's just crack on. Let's just crack on. I want to edit some parts out, actually. Okay. So he wants people to have a multi-year experience within Monero. The issue is that most of the people within Monero aren't familiar with DAOs. So for you to move over to a system which is more resemblant of a DAO, you would benefit from having people in that are more experienced within DAOs. The idea of keeping the tribe responsible for the tribe is admirable, but in reality, very few of the people who are in Monero have been in something else. What you really would want is for people like me, or people who have had quite a lot of experience within DAOs, to come in and say, this is a good idea, you should consider X, Y, and Z. And that's the reason why I'm making this video, because I feel like there are some things you should consider. And the first thing you should consider is you're going to need people who have got experience in DAOs. So go and find those people and bring those in. A lot of those people will be interested in privacy, but not as well versed, but it's not really going to matter. So you want to get people who are experienced in DAOs. Go to projects like Juicebox. Go to projects like Aragon on ETH. Go to projects like PivX. Go to those projects who have been using DAOs. Projects like Evmos. Projects like Juno. Projects where people have been using DAOs and they understand the shortcomings. They understand what it means to have all of this drama. There's a lot of drama within DAOs. They understand how to mitigate this drama. They understand how to get people onto the same page or move on with people on different pages. There's going to be a lot more cognitive diversity if you move into a DAO, if you move more towards a plutocracy or a democracy, maybe, if they can find a way to do that, and away from a dictatorship which they had with a core team that had authority. To do that, you're going to need people who are versed. Get those people in first. Even at this early stage, which is the reason why I'm making this video, get these people in and have these people help you to make this migration. The platforms that you use to have discussions, currently Monero has Telegram groups which are open to, I would say, generally the lowest amount of cognitive value. That's rude, but you're going to get the least value out of a Telegram group just because of the way Telegram is structured. A lot of the information just going to fly off up the screen as people say hi and put in little emojis and stuff like that. Actual information flies off up the screen. Discord is a little bit better in where you can make threads and you can have channels, so you can have discussion on different topics in different rooms. But again, it flies off up the screen. In a busy community like Monero, a Telegram group, forget about it. You're not going to get any good information there. Discord, you're going to get a tiny bit of good information, but less. Then you've got forums, you've got IRC channels. Now, I haven't used an IRC channel since I was young, and I really wanted to be a rude boy on the internet. since I stopped doing root bar on the internet, I haven't used IRC. IRC channels, I think, they only lend themselves to having discussions from a lot of people who are already in a certain place, I would say mentally, and their level of technical knowledge, which could be at the detriment of other forms of knowledge. So whilst IRC channels are good, you're going to have to find a way to align these people with IRC level of technical depth with the people from Telegram levels of technical depth. That's what having a DAO is about. You're going to have to really start bridging these channels together, having moderators who can interact with both, start considering your different language channels so that you can get a say from everybody else, and all of those sorts of things, none of which has he considered, but he won't have considered that, because he's, as far as I know, he's spent very little time working within DAOs, and he's definitely spent zero time working within a DAO formed around Monero, because nobody has, because it's new. But this is what he's pushing for, and I believe he'll get it. I wanted to move from discussing the different channels to building consensus. So consensus is basically when you try to figure out what everybody thinks. So within these work groups, building consensus will be easy, because how he's decided to have the work group is that we're going to pick a couple of people from the community to do this, a couple of people from the community to do that, a couple of people from the community to do that. And all of these people will have multiple years of visibility. So they would have been in the community saying stuff, or they would have been in the community doing stuff, or they have to be multiple year visible people. This, I believe, slows down a DAO in the same way. I'll evidence this by talking about Evmos. When you've got people who are set and relied upon to do certain things, and access to that group, in and out of that group, is very closely guarded. For example, in Evmos, they had a DAO-focused work group, they called it. And entry into this work group was a couple of guys who more than likely all got on. They never argued in public. None of them come and go, and the outside people have got no way to make them come and go, or to poll their efficiency, or to poll their decision making, or to audit, let's say, their efficiency, audit their decision making. There is none of that. As a result, not to say that the DAO work group within Evmos was bad, but a lot of other people sit back and they don't try to engage. They don't try to do things. And I did try to do things, and I was met with an authoritarian, well, we're in charge. It's kind of funny how you've opened your mouth and said something, blah, blah, blah. This is, for me, not good for DAOs, and evidenced in Evmos by the complete lack of outsiders coming to then interact with the DAO. You need to have a DAO work group which is audited on the amount of outsiders who come in, the amount of new ideas that come in, the amount of new energy that comes in, the amount of new, I guess, overall value that comes in, that this DAO group is bringing in, and how they onboard that value, and then how they make the other various parts interact with each other, and how they portray that information to the greater DAO, which is all of the stakeholders within the project, whether they be miners, whether they be Monero holders, or whether they be people who spend Monero. This hasn't been addressed here. Consensus, before I go too far off topic. How do we decide who's going to make these decisions, and how? We've got these small groups. How are people going to come and go? We have to, first of all, Monero or Fluffy is going to have to remove this 2-year or this multiple years of visibility thing. He's going to have to remove that, because then you don't get the the drama that you need or the cognitive diversity that you need. You're going to have to allow people to come in and out. You're going to have to allow people to have a say in who comes in and out. But how do you do that? Now, currently, as far as I know, you can't have smart contracts on Monero. So you can't have a DAO-like organization where one coin equals one vote and the voting all happens on chain. A lot of this consensus will naturally have to happen off chain. On top of that, you've got the issue of privacy. Now, in a privacy-focused coin, does this consensus identification allow people to be pointed out, well, you voted for this, you voted for this, you voted for this, you wanted this, you wanted this, you wanted this. In a privacy-focused coin, you're going to need to have private voting. How do you do that? I feel like you need to have a group possibly around that in itself. You also need to consider that simply holding the coins, as generally happens within projects like PivX or projects like a Nouns DAO, for example, simply holding the coins or simply holding the tokens or simply holding the NFTs, should that give you a higher vote or a lower vote? I would argue possibly a slightly higher vote, but other things need to be taken into account. How much are you using the network? So somebody who uses the network more than somebody who just holds the token, arguably they're better for the network. How much fees are you generating on the network? How much privacy are you providing by, say, putting your tokens into a mixing pool in different privacy coins? How much mining are you doing? How much are you securing the network? All of these things should give you some form of weighted say towards the consensus building. So the miners should have a say, and the token holders should have a say, and the token users, or the coin, I shouldn't say token, I keep saying token, the coin holders, the coin users, they should have a say in who gets put into and who gets brought out of these work groups. How do you do all of those things? So I believe there should be also a DAO structure work group with people who are broadly academic, I guess, who sit down and constantly monitor, are we getting the best value from the community? Are we educating everybody in what the current topics are? Are we educating everybody, for example, in what the current proposals are? And are they meeting their milestones? And who are the people putting forward these proposals? And how much will the proposals help people? You're going to need a group for that, and there doesn't seem to be one. So I think that's another issue. Working in the open is the last thing I want to discuss, as we're coming up to the half hour mark. And what I wanted to do for that was to go to the project that I think works the best with working out in the open in a DAO format and getting people to work together. And that is, if we can get it open, it's Dash Incubator. Dash is I'm going to call it a former privacy coin, which stopped being a privacy coin and went after the cash element. Some people still class it as a privacy coin. I don't anymore. Either way, what they do have is they have this great little. Dash is probably the longest DAO of this form, where the actual coins equal a vote in how the value gets distributed. Newly created value, so it's newly inflated coins. How that gets distributed, newly created coins. And they use Trello. So they build out in the open. So anyone can come in and see what they're doing. Anyone can comment. Anyone can get involved and they can get paid. So, for example, here's a card that they've done for integrating Dash into Maya, which is the decentralized fork of Thorchain, which everybody should know about by now. If you don't worry about it. Actually, don't worry about it. Google it. And here are people all getting involved and all doing their bit. right? So you've got various different people doing various different jobs. So this guy would have, let's see if we can see what Ash Francis has done here. So here he's added something to GitHub, he's then put it on here, and then he would then get his little bounty, let's say. Maybe not in that particular case, but in some of these cases you'll get your bounty. I'm trying to look for one that I've gotten involved in. But either way, this in itself is a way of organizing in a more DAO-like structure, in a more decentralized structure that nobody within Monero has done. So it would probably benefit them to go over to Dash and to speak to some of these guys and be like, look, this is what we're doing. Can you come across and help us to work out in the open? I think that's it, really. I think I've kind of got across a lot of my initial thoughts about this, about how Monero does migrate, let's say, towards a more of a DAO-like structure. The last things I will say is that I wonder if Ruben is considering migrating Firo into a more DAO-like structure. Firo already has masternodes, so there's already a method for people to vote on things. You can have it masternode only vote, which has its issues, but at least it's a way to do it. And there is somewhat a cult of personality built around Ruben. As soon as I think of Firo, I think of Ruben, and I can't think of anybody else that I think of when I think of Firo. So everybody is watching what happens with Monero. I'm really interested to see how they progress, and I would love to chip in. Like a friend of mine, Kayaba, now he's working on a DEX, but he now works closely with Monero. Everybody, even people who aren't avid Monero fans, a lot of people understand the importance of privacy. And once you've been in crypto for a decent amount of time, the appeal of the tribalism kind of wears off after you've moved through a few tribes, and you kind of just want the right projects to win. Monero is one of the right projects. It's one of the things that humanity needs, without me getting too deep. So a lot of us would like to see, I would like to see Monero win, and I would like to see them win in a way that is less targetable, less easy to stop, and moving to a DAO would definitely do that. Funding the DAO, I believe, would be difficult, as funding anything within Monero is difficult. And getting everybody to do the various jobs, I believe, will be difficult, especially as they have no experience in it. So let's hope those of us who have experience with DAO, let's hope that we can all try and chip in as much as we can to help them to progress as quickly as possible. There was one last thing I'll touch on, was that in here, Fluffy Pony did give a date. I like that he gave a date. I think his date is wild, though. He did give a date that he wants this transition to take place, and he said the date, I believe, was the end of January 2024, or maybe the start of January 2024. Yeah, okay. So what he wanted to do it for the 1st of January 2024. Now that's less than 2 months away. I can't see how he'll do that. I can't see how we could get that done in less than 2 months. It's going to take weekly calls. It's going to take some real fast organization, and definitely by people, or at least spearheaded by people who are not well known within the community, because they have been busy elsewhere. And that's it. One thing I did miss out, if you go, I'll put the link to this GitHub in the description. I will put a link to the tweet in the description as well. One thing that it would be remiss of me to neglect to mention is that this comes on the back of Monero having their funding wallet hacked for 500,000. I'm not sure if it's 500,000 Monero or 500,000 XMR. I'm not sure, $500,000 worth of Monero or 500,000 XMR. The current, let's see, actually, there's an easy way to figure this out. If we go for the current price of Monero, which, Monero is no longer top 20. Yeah, so I don't think it was 500,000 Monero, because that would be, that'd be $82 million. No, I think it was 500,000. I don't think it was hacked for $82 million. I think it's hacked for $500,000 worth of Monero. And on the back of that, a few days after, Fluffy Pony has now said, look, I don't want to be here to be the guy that's shot at whenever anything goes wrong. So there is some vitriol being pointed at Fluffy Pony, but this is what happens when you have a cult of personality. There will be people who live to chop these people down. I definitely am not one of them. Even with Do Kwon and those sorts of people, I'm not a person who wants to just chop them down because they've been up there. Charles Hoskinson is another one. Cult of personality around them. And then there are people who are just waiting for them to mess up so they can come and say, yeah, I told you he was a bad guy, blah, blah, blah. So there are some comments which are saying, it seems like an inside job. It's a bit thing that you've come along and you've done this. Moving more towards a DAO, it mitigates those sorts of problems from happening in the future. They can happen less when one person has so much access to so much critical infrastructure for the entire project. And I think that's what Fluffy Pony wants to achieve, and I think he's right at going for it. I'm going to say this for one last thing. This was a great post here from user of Reddit who I would bet doesn't actually have a GitHub. He's not actually a developer, but he's somebody like me who used it from time to time to go and do things. But anyway, he said, which I think is possibly one of the highest value comments here. There are quite a few higher value comments here, but one of the highest value comments here is, let's look at some other decentralized organizations and how they structure themselves, and let's see if we can implement some of the things that they've done. I think that this is key to whether or not Monero can get it right, is can they look at other things? Good luck, Monero, really. I mean that, good luck. And let's all root for them to knock this one out of the park. I'm Cryptosi. This has been a DaoWatch special discussing the move by Monero to a more DAO-like structure. If you've got any comments, or you feel like I've maybe wrongly said anything, or there are other things that you feel like I haven't quite considered, it's just literally my initial thoughts. I saw this yesterday. I pondered it for a couple of minutes yesterday. I pondered it on the school run this morning. I've decided, I'm going to make a video, we'll put it out there. We'll see what the Monero people think. I'm really interested to hear what you Monero guys think about a lot of the things that I've said. And I'm interested to hear what you DAO people think about how Monero can make this transition, and how those of us who are not well-known Monero people, that we're just crypto people of a different flavor. I like to wear this oh no, there's a dash on my Make Dash Great Again hat. It's come off. I like to wear my Make Dash Great Again hat. I like to wear this. I also have a PivX book So, you know, I've got loads of different allegiances. I just want crypto to win, in particular DAOs, and then privacy, and then, I don't know. So, good luck, Monero. Let's all hope they win. Don't forget, I've got a book, The Ultimate DAO Handbook, available on Kindle in Amazon. Go read that. And yeah, like and subscribe, and please share this. Let's get the conversation going. Let's see if we can help migrate Monero to a actual DAO as soon as possible. And then I can replace the dash with a Monero and put this as make Monero great again. This could never say make PivX great again because the cap's not purple. But yeah. Peace out. Thanks for watching. Congratulations on making it to the end.